So ahead of the main discussions with panellists seated in the audience, but will be joining me after our keynote speaker, I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Maheem Khudasani, who is our keynote speaker today. Mr. Khudasani is the CEO of the Economic Development Board of Mauritius and has been in post since May 2025. In this role, he is leading the EDB's in its mission to drive sustainable economic growth, investment and trade promotion and strategic development initiatives for Mauritius. He has extensive experience in economic diplomacy, international trade relations and cross-border investment facilitation. Mr. Khudasani brings with him a distinguished track record of fostering global partnerships and advancing national economic interest. Mr. Khudasani, if you'd like to take the stand.
Thank you. Dr. the Honorable Jyoti Jitan, Minister of Financial Services and Economic Planning of the Republic of Mauritius. Mr. Desiree Venkatachalam, Chief Executive of the Financial Services Commission of Mauritius. Esteemed panelists, distinguished investors, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all, and I'm so happy to see there are so many of you here this morning. I was a bit worried, but seeing all of this here, I'm really happy. Let me begin by extending my appreciation to the organizers for creating a platform that continues to convene Africa's most committed partners and visionaries and friends, dedicated to driving business, trade, investment and innovation across our continent. I would also like to express our deepest appreciation to our partners, Fraser and Ditos, for putting together the panel today, who will delve into the architecture of doing business in Mauritius. We have in our midst representatives from the regulator, the operators, the banking sector, and amongst others. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mauritius treasures its deep and dynamic relationship with Africa. Our record speaks for itself. I would like to welcome, please, a hand for the Vice President of Botswana, who is here amongst us today. Excellency, welcome. So Mauritius treasures its deep and dynamic relationship with Africa. Our record speaks for itself, and Africa remains one of Mauritius' largest export markets and a top destination for our cross-border investment, with more than 82 billion in African-bound capital structured through our financial center and over 450 private equity funds choosing Mauritius as their base. This is no coincidence. It reflects a shared commitment to prosperity, sustainable development, within a framework of trust, excellence, and transparency. Mauritius today stands as a testament to adaptability and forward-thinking innovation. Our new government has set a clear vision to transform Mauritius into a globally recognized high-income economy that is both robust and fundamentally recognizable. Mauritius today stands at I've just said that again. This vision harnesses a renewed focus on simplifying processes, regulatory predictability, and a strong national commitment to environmental, social, and governance principles across all projects. The Mauritius International Financial Center is the central pillar of our Africa strategy. We are not simply a bridge, we are fully secured, regulatory compliant, launchpad designed to facilitate asset externalization, cross-border trade, and efficient capital flows. Our platform offers sophisticated structuring opportunities leveraging one of Africa's most extensive treaty networks, our double taxation avoidance agreements and investment promotion and protection agreements, to provide risk mitigation and efficient repatriation of returns. Specifically, the MIFC offers bespoke financial vehicles like the variable capital companies, the VCCs, for streamlined fund management. 2, the global headquarters administration licenses for establishing Pan-African operational and treasury centers. And 3rd, a robust regime for fintech and digital asset management, leveraging a high-speed digital infrastructure. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, our strength begins with certainty. Mauritius is built upon a sustained democratic tradition, a robust legal framework, and crucially, as a globally recognized financial center, our reputation is built on absolute integrity. We ensure that cross-border strategy is protected from the outset, providing you with the necessary legal and financial architecture to operate with confidence. We maintain a stringent adherence to the global best practices on anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing, AML, CFT. Our commitment is fully aligned with the standards set by the OECD and the Financial Action Task Force, FATF. This regulatory discipline is our guarantee to you. Capital flowing through Mauritius is clean, compliant, and positioned for the long term. This commitment ensures that your reputation remains unblemished as you pursue the continent's opportunities. Mauritius is not only a reliable, efficient, and trusted international financial center, but it is also an excellent place to work, live, and play. We're an open economy for foreign talents with our foreign residency schemes, in particular our occupation and permanent resident permits, allowing investors and professionals, as well as their family members, to benefit from the excellent quality of life. Our tax rate is attractive and the system is simple. We have no capital gains tax, no estate tax, no inheritance tax, and no tax on dividends or interest earned. Doing business in Mauritius, in short, is business friendly. On a last note, I wish to say that the Economic Development Board of Mauritius, as the nation's primary entry point for investors, stands ready to support your ambitions with effective and efficient guidance, facilitation, and fast tracking. Today, we are privileged to have a distinguished panel who will share even deeper insights into the evolving investment vehicles, regulatory frameworks, and the future of the IMFC, designed by sustainable growth and digital innovation. I encourage you to engage, challenge, and collaborate, and discover the unique value Mauritius can add to our global portfolio. And together, we can unlock meaningful growth, drive sustainable change, and continue to establishing Africa's next development chapter. I thank you for your attention and wish you all a fruitful conference ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that. Right, I'd now like to welcome the panelists to join me on the stage, if they wouldn't mind. Okay, I'll take that one. That's fine. I'll sit there. So today what we're looking to explore is the strategic positioning of Mauritius, the structure and the banking solutions that are available, and the regional connectivity. And to help explore that, I'm joined by my esteemed panel here, and I'd like to just give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind. So I'll start with you at the end.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Desiree Venkatachalam. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Services Commission of Mauritius. Very pleased to be here today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Thierry Antoinette from Ditos Group. Ditos is a Mauritian headquartered fiduciary, corporate, and fund administration service provider. We've been around for quite some time, since the beginning of the Mauritius AFSIC 32 years ago. So our mission, or our role today is to help our clients to structure their business or their wealth cross-border.
Hello everyone, good morning. Myself, Naveen Ramrial from Asia Bank, so heading the International Corporate NFI. So we have been in existence for the last 18 years, trying to be meaningful in the Mauritian IFC. To put it short, Asia is here to help investors in Mauritius to create value, as it has been said in the keynote speech. I think what is very important in our ecosystem is we need players in the ecosystem to enable value creation, protection, and distribution in the right environment where investors feel safe, because at the end of the day, we talk about investors and investment. There are people behind, and we need people to support them in their investment journey. So that's a piece of contribution we are here for. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Priscilla Bhargavin-Boyrol. I am a senior partner in Dentons Mauritius. Mauritius is part of Dentons globally. I am passionate about Mauritius and Africa and look forward to playing a part in the country's growth and success, as well as the continent.
Thank you all very much indeed for that. Right, so first of all, looking at the strategic positioning of Mauritius, Desiree, this question is for you. Given the increasingly competitive landscape of international financial centres, including Mauritius, how do you view the challenge of striking the right balance between maintaining a strong regulatory standards and fostering innovation within the financial sector?
No, thanks for this great question. I think it's a great question to start the conversation, because this is a bit of a myth, you know? And for me, it's not an either-or question. It is really two sides of the same coin. If you don't get the regulation right, you will kill the business. But you will kill also the business. You'll kill innovation if the pendulum swings to the other side. So the way we do it at the Financial Services Commission in Mauritius, we do it right. We do it to enable business, but we do it also to stay in our lane, and I'll give you a few examples. So I just want to put this as a background. We're not here to kill the business. We want the business to grow, but to grow the business, you need the right regulation. If ever we go on the wrong side of some of those big guys watching us, then we'll be in trouble. So that's the broad approach. Over the past, 20 plus years, as Maheem said, Mauritius has been extremely successful. 450 plus funds in Mauritius, domiciled in Mauritius. That's a number which instead should give us reason to be very proud of what has been achieved. And the way we've done that in two manners. The regulatory system has been transparent, it's been fair, and it's been predictable. These three characteristics are there to stay. Fair, predictable, and we treat everyone the same. Now, it's very easy to say it's two sides of the same coins, but as you said, the world is moving very fast, you know? Fintech, bitcoins, digital asset, all those things are here to stay, and they change the landscape very quickly. At the Financial Services Commission of Mauritius, we are not just a follower. There are things we follow, but we are also ahead of the game in a number of cases. Take tokenization. We have on our books the regulations to do that. This, we've been proactive. Yesterday we had great discussion on clean energy, renewable energy, all the ESG aspect, we also have ways to do that. So I just want to put out that don't see Mauritius. Very often the picture you see of Mauritius is beaches, people at the beaches. But actually, and the minister keeps reminding when we talk about that, the number one contributor to GDP is financial services. Number one contributor. So what's ahead? To go back to your question, an enabling regulator, yes, but also a disciplined regulator, and we are moving quite big in the area of SupTech, RegTech, and AI. We'll have a chance to talk more about that, but let me end on that note. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for that answer. The next question is to you, Priscilla. To what extent does the legal framework, regulatory environment, and professional ecosystems in Mauritius facilitate the ease of doing business for international clients?
Thank you for your question. First of all, I think it's clear that we have the right environment because we have recently celebrated 30 years as an IFC, and that doesn't happen just like that by coincidence. Mauritius has a hybrid system where you have the English common law and the French civil code. So a lot of you who are not from Mauritius will be familiar with one or the other. A large number of professionals, bilingual, speaking French or English, which is probably one of your languages. In Mauritius, the constitution is our supreme law. And why do I say that? I'm not getting technical, but separation of powers and rule of law is essential to our constitution, and we breathe it, we live it every day. And for any African country, this is extremely important. Our Supreme Court, our judges are not politically appointed. We have a commercial court at the Supreme Court. So any shareholder dispute, any issues that any investor, any of you who has a company in Mauritius, any problem, so you are sure to be before a commercial court that goes quickly, fast, efficient. Our ultimate court of appeal is a Privy Council. You probably all already know that. And this gives a lot of comfort to investors. Already, we've heard already about a great number of tax treaties, investment protection treaties that we have. So when people are coming to Mauritius to invest in Africa, investment protection is a key word. You cannot overemphasize that importance enough. And then we have such a framework of modern, sophisticated laws that keep evolving, that keep changing. We are not static. So whether it's Companies Act, our Securities Act, insolvency. So those of you operating in the financial sector will find a suite of laws and framework that will meet your expectations. And yes, and may I just also mention that there are sectors like data protection, where Mauritius has been at the forefront. At the same time as GDPR was a big thing in Europe, Mauritius was already rushing ahead with its data protection laws. These are small, but definitely not negligible when it comes to ease of doing business, of having a strong legal framework that would enable DFIs, institutional investors, European, American investors that want to invest on the continent through Mauritius.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Moving on to structuring and banking solutions within Mauritius. This question is to you, Thierry. Based on your proven track record within the industry, in practice, what vehicles or structures do corporates and high net worth families tend to establish in Mauritius, and how do they help address their business and investment needs?
Thank you very much for that question, Richard. So I think most commonly used vehicle at the moment still remains the global business companies, GBCs, simply because what my co-panelists have just mentioned, that through a GBC, it is a tested vehicle, and it's mostly used by corporates, multinational, because it's tested in terms of giving access to the various DTAAs, double taxation avoidance agreement, signed by Mauritius, investment protection, like Priscilla mentioned. So, and these vehicles are most of the time used for investment holding into African countries. So it provides a right framework for in terms of certainty in terms of your taxes, certainty in terms of repatriation of your profits, but also a place where you've got the right framework for good governance, which is very important for you to grow. For high net worth individuals or families, the main focus is always asset protection, succession planning, and in that sense, Mauritius provides solutions through trust and foundations. And obviously, when clients come to us looking for the jurisdiction, because we're multi-jurisdictional, for the trust or the foundation, the key question is, give us something that has been tested, give us something that has been challenged and that has gone over the challenge. And Mauritius always comes up there, as opposed to, for example, Dubai, where I sit. So, and in that sense, so Mauritius allows companies to plan ahead, to first consolidate their wealth through a GBC, for instance, and then held by a trust or a foundation that enables the succession and passing on to the generations. And then lastly, I think this is where we've been the most creative and most dynamic in Mauritius is in terms of creating the right environment for investment funds, collective investment scheme. So Mauritius is still seen very much as a good common place for pooling of funds for investment into various projects into Africa. And I think all of this, the vehicles that we mentioned, is really enabled by the ecosystem, technically. So today, Mauritius, we've got the perfect ecosystem in terms of you've got seasoned bankers, renowned banks, corporate service providers, lawyers. So all that you need to actually make those vehicles efficient and effective.
So how would you compare, sorry, going off script slightly, but just an interesting question. So if you were competing with the other IFCs that exist within the world, why would you put Mauritius as being the one that should be chosen by those individuals?
So I think it depends on and that's what we've seen as a trend. If we compare to the IFCs in terms of trust, for instance, African families would prefer to use Mauritius for their wealth management, their wealth protection, their succession planning. Geographically, it's close to Africa. In terms of, and I'm turning to my co-panelists here, in terms of understanding the risk, the African risk, I think Mauritius has got an edge in terms of identifying, to be able to onboard, for example, rich African families. We've got that, it's cultural, so we understand Africa better. And in terms of, again, in terms of the GBCs or the multinational looking to expand into Africa, that's just tested route, right? So you've seen it work before, and you won't take any chances, you will go for it. Though other ISCs are trying to get there as well, Mauritius, I think, has got an edge. I don't know. Yeah.
And maybe if I may add, but two things. No inheritance tax in Mauritius, so that is definitely a big point for us. And also, we've come out of a grey list in record time. And although a lot of people complain, I have a lot of clients who say, oh, there's so much compliance. Although they complain, everyone is happy because it's better to be compliant, to do what you have to do, to be in a jurisdiction which is not grey listed, than to do business in a jurisdiction which is on the FATF grey list. So I think these are two reasons why a lot of investors choose Mauritius as well.
Desiree, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just a couple of things to follow up on what Thierry was saying. Mauritius is 100% an African country. We are a member of the African Union. We belong to SADC. We belong to COMESA. We belong to all the regional communities. So we are 100% an African country. So that gives it itself, it's a marker, it's a differentiator of the business. And two, it's not only we don't compete on low cost, but I think what you were saying is spot on. The palette of expertise you find in Mauritius, just as an aside, I was outside of Mauritius for 40 years. I just came back. But the Mauritius I see now, the talent, it's not different from some of the best places you go around the world. You have the same caliber of people working and living in Mauritius that you would find almost anywhere. So I think that gives you the edge. The sophistication is there. So that is really great.
Thank you. Navin, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just to add on, I think it's very spot on by our co-panelists. I think I'll take it more from a banking perspective, why we need Mauritius as being one of the meaningful players. I think twofold. One, from a commercial perspective, is we have the right jurisdiction, we have the right legal system. And I think what's interesting is today we see investors looking to go into Africa, be it an expansion and an extension from one African country to the other. So you need a platform. And I think what's a good thing about Mauritius is you can create the right structure for investment. So when I'm saying investment, your operations are still in Africa, you invest from Mauritius. And the good thing is not only about the creation of the asset, is more important when you have to transfer the wealth, when you have to exit any investment. I think Mauritius has been set up in a way where it's full-fledged. It creates and ensures there's transfer of the value to the right stakeholders. And that's why we see there has been private equity coming to Mauritius. We still have interest in Mauritius in terms of having the platform. We see so many European investors looking to invest into Africa and using the Mauritian IFC as the right platform to invest. It's not only about making the investment, but also the facilitation of exit of investment that happen from Mauritius. And I think whenever you invest in Africa, we have to acknowledge you need a safe jurisdiction about the entry point, but also in terms of exit. So I think that's more from a capital perspective. Second, in terms of trade facilitation, I was in a panel last month, and I think it's the right time to talk about it. Why Mauritian IFC is basically when we talk about 1 month back, we are talking about the ending of AGWA, African Growth Opportunity Trade, that was there. It was a bridge. We started about a bridge. We were talking about a bridge between Africa to US. But I think what is more important and magnified in terms of opportunity is you have the African Continental Free Trade Agreement area coming into place. And I think when we are talking about it, it's again the Mauritian jurisdictions gap comes into play. We are talking about Africa. We are talking about what? 1.4 billion people in terms of population. We are talking about a GDP of what? Approximately $3.4 trillion. It's big talks, but you need the right platform to make it happen, to make the free trade happen within Africa. And I think with the right ingredients that we have in the Mauritian ecosystem, we are well positioned as one of the best candidates to be able to facilitate this trade. So Mauritius is positioned as a bridge now, not as a bridge, I would say as a highway to facilitate trade in Africa. So that's more my perspective in terms of looking at Mauritian IFC from a capital and trade flow.
So just extending that then, from an AFRASIA perspective, how are you facilitating cross-border financial flows within Africa using Mauritius as a specific platform?
I think, to be honest, on that side, the figures speaks for itself. Last year of June 2024, with the latest numbers that we have, more than $50 billion have been transited from Mauritius for investment into Africa. Quite a small number in terms of what you can tap in terms of opportunities. But what's very important is we have a platform to be able to route into Africa. And there are three angles in terms of how we as AFRASIA have been routing or facilitating first capital flows, and then I'll come to trade flows. But I think very important is we have been able to accompany investors in terms of expansion, twofold, I would say bidirectional, into and outside Africa, but the focus more in terms of Africa. I think corporate perspective, we have seen quite a number of trades in terms of capital flows going, in terms of be it greenfield project, brownfield, totally new acquisition, leverage finance, in terms of acquisition finance. I think what's important is when we see investors, when we engage with investors in Mauritian IFC, it's not only about facilitating from a transactional perspective. They want to tap the pocket of liquidity we have in Mauritius. And I think this is where Mauritius becomes very meaningful. And the commercial banks in Mauritius have a very important role to play, which they are playing. Definitely, we have the right ecosystem with banks in excess of 20 in terms of candidacy, in terms of international bank and local banks. I think each and everyone has their own input in terms of supporting the investors. And we are seeing in terms of capital flows, we're not only facilitating from a transactional, but more in terms of leverage, in terms of funding arrangement. We have the sophistication in terms of funding. So this is happening onefold. And I think the second part where Mauritius becomes very meaningful in terms of facilitating the capital flows, I think it has been in terms of assistance to private equities. We have so many private equity investors, LPs from Europe going into Africa and using Mauritian IFC. And I think where we have been able to differentiate ourselves in terms of commercial banks is not only in terms of facilitation of the transaction, but also to make sure we are meaningful in terms of, again, leveraging, in terms of providing assistance from a credit perspective, in terms of providing leverage. But more importantly is we are going beyond borders. It's not about just structuring into Mauritius, but going beyond borders. You are saying merchant banks co-lending with those private equity investors into Africa, or directly co-lending to those target companies that they are doing. So I think that's a very exciting journey in terms of investment, where you see commercial banks are able to assist. And having said that, I think this is where the third angle comes into play. You accompany a client, a corporate, into investment into Africa. The setup is done. The CapEx is done. But what is important is to run the business. You need blood to turn out the business on a day-to-day basis. And I think this is where working capital finance and trade finance become very critical. And I think being in between Africa and Asia, I think we are positioned in terms of assisting in terms of value creation into Africa. And I think we are facilitating cross-border trade in terms of inland, in continent. So we are doing that. So basically, trade flows is being facilitated by banks in Mauritius. And especially we have seen value created, semi-partial value created into Africa goes into across the world, I would say across the world, be it in the Asian market, in European market, or US market. And I think what we have seen is basically we are able to bring into a next level is in terms of value addition, is in terms of facilitating those export from Mauritius. So definitely I think it becomes meaningful because it creates a platform to make sure the operators are operating in an environment which is exchange control free, to make sure funds are being routed to the right direction, and also creation of wealth. So I think to summarize is we have been meaningful in terms of enabling investment into Africa, in terms of assisting private equity investors, but more importantly is both investment, how we facilitate the trade, the working capital to make sure it's a running business, and lastly, it goes back again in terms of protection of all those values that is created. And I think Priscilla rightly mentioned in terms of the structure, so that comes as a last into the room to make sure not only about the value that is created, but to make sure we keep the value as it should be to grow to the next level.
Thank you very much indeed. All right, moving on to regional connectivity. Zero, this one's for you. As a strategic platform for investment into Africa, what specific initiatives is Mauritius implementing to ensure its international financial centre not only adheres to global standards, but also sets a benchmark for best practices in financial services as a whole?
No, thank you so much. I think my co-panelists have started to already give you a sense of it. They've stole my thunder, so I depart a little bit. So we've answered the question before you ask it. So just to piggyback on the numbers, and I think that's important for direction of travel. Thierry is right. GBCs are still number one by far. But there's one product which is going up very quickly. It is the VCCs. VCCs are really something, an instrument, an innovation that Mauritius has put on its books, which can really be transformational for the over 53 countries, African countries, and Mauritius. Why do I say that? Because on the continent side, the needs in infrastructure, in climate finance, in energy are huge. You need those things. But then on the product side, the VCC gives you that flexibility to channel those funds in a structured manner under a disciplined regulator, and then you meet the target. And VCC is growing. The appetite for VCC is really big. I see my colleague here, she was actually, I was not part of it. She's the one who made this happen, Dovina. So just to recognize that work. So this is a winner. This is really a winner. Now, you also need to look at the way we operate ourselves. And this one, we are going through not a transformation, but leveraging IT to bring us to be a frontier regulator. Frontier in the way we do the business. For instance, using AI, using large language models, using data mining to make us more efficient. So we are not going to compromise in any way whatsoever the regulatory aspect, but we can leverage those tools that we have to do things even better. And to your question about how we become that bridge, better bridge, the bridge is there. You know, the numbers are big. I don't know if you heard the number that was said. From what Maheem said, 450, Alvin, I think you said about close to $50 billion. I mean, that's a huge number. These are really huge numbers. So now, how do we go from 50 to 100 billion? That's the ambition. So how do we do that? We'll build on our strengths. You know, on our books as a regulator, we have quite a number of products which can be used, be it in fintech. We had many conversations here. Yesterday, we had conversations on ESG-linked bonds. This is also something we can do. But to conclude, as I said at the end of the first intervention, we are also going to move big on innovative aspects, digital asset, tokenization, SupTech, and RegTech. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Thierry, this one's for you. What makes Mauritius strategically important for your clients, and how do you see this relationship evolving?
Thank you, Richard. I think all has been said already on this matter, but Mauritius, I think, has got an important role to play into the growth of the African continent. Has always been, but now it's even a bigger role. So Mauritius is a strategic bridge between Africa and the rest of the world, mainly, let's say, Middle East and Asia at this point in time. So clients are more and more looking at routing their investment through Mauritius for the reason I stated earlier. And I think in terms of our clients today, they are really looking at having a proper jurisdiction where they can structure their investment, protect their investment, but also then but will allow them to extend into Africa and achieve kind of operational efficiency on the continent. So I think Mauritius is positioning itself in a very good manner in that way. And secondly, there is the connectivity, both geographically and economically. Today, Mauritius sits in a good time zone when it comes to the continent and Asia. It's in the middle, actually. You've got, and Mauritius also offers the stability that you require to root your investment, political stability, good framework, good legal framework, foreseeability based on the credibility it's built as a financial center in the last 30 years or so. And then, again, we go back to the people in terms of Mauritius has, again, like I said, a good ecosystem, but we're also bilingual set of professionals, which means that we can capture almost all businesses on the continent, except for those where there's Portuguese-speaking countries, but otherwise we can catch all of them. I myself travel quite often to Francophone West Africa, and the fact that I speak French makes a lot of difference, etc., and I can make the link. So I think Mauritius remain still now very much convinced the strategic bridge into Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Navin, for you. How does AFRISIA leverage its regional banking network to position Mauritius as a springboard for clients looking to grow in Africa and beyond?
Thanks, Richard. I think it's a very pertinent question in terms of network. Just to put it into perspective, I think this is very critical when we talk about Mauritius as an IFC. It's not about just structuring or helping to set up in Mauritius, but it's all about investment into Africa, especially in Africa. I think it's very critical to have partners that accompany investors in their investment journey into their country of operations. And I think be it AFRISIA or any bank in Mauritius, they have a very critical role, and it has been demonstrated. I think our very first level is to make sure we are able to accompany them in their host country where they are looking to do the investment. So in terms of having the right banking partners locally in those countries, it's very critical, very important. And I think the way we are structured in Mauritius is we have the right network in terms of reach, in terms of clearers. I think we work with all the international banks across the region and globally, just to make sure we have the right partner to transfer in terms of engagement for the investors. But more importantly, what is important, it's not only from a transactional perspective, is to make sure we are able to assist them not only at the holdco level, but at the opco level where they're operating. And I think this becomes very important, is to be able to assist them in their funding locally, in their country of operations, because you don't really need only dollars or hard currencies, you need local currency. You have people working for you there. And I think this becomes very critical to make sure the partnership goes along the journey. And for us, AFRISIA, at least I can say for it, we are part of a group, we are present in more than 16 countries in Africa. And I think this becomes very critical and makes us very successful and differentiating as well, to make sure we are able to accompany transactionally and also financially to make sure we are able to make the company to grow. And it's not only about talks, it's also about in terms of reality, how we have been able to do it. We have numerous examples, but very high level, I would say, we have been able to accompany investors across Africa, be it in West Africa, in Senegal, being lead to ensure value is created, we are there. So it's more about cross-jurisdictional to be able to be present across countries, meaningful, working with partners, with banks to make sure there's a right blend of currency mix funding to make sure they are able to operate in the ideal environment. So this has been done. And also what is important is in terms of upstreaming, in terms of getting the money back. We have been able to invest, we have been able to support in terms of operation, but what about creation of value? It's also about getting the money into Mauritian IFC. So I think this is the second place where we are playing a very critical role with our network of FI into Africa. So this is becoming very important for us as a meaningful player for investors, so it's happening. And I think more and over above what we are doing from a transactional and funding perspective is to make sure we provide the right network to those investors, not only to be able to accompany financially, but to make sure we provide them with the right introduction in terms of partners and also in terms of exit in those investments. So I think to summarize for us is in terms of funding, in terms of transactional requirement, day-to-day transactional, we're able to assist clients, and also in terms of funding, and lastly, in terms of exit also, we are able to support our clients.
Thank you very much indeed. Ahead of my last question, which I'll ask all of you, which is basically looking to the horizon, what do you see the biggest challenge for Mauritius as an IFC in the future, and how are you, within your particular roles or as an IFC, looking to overcome those and address those? So I'll give you due warning on that question. The last question is to you, Priscilla. How do you see the Mauritius legal and compliance framework continue to support your clients' future expansion plans?
I think there's a magic word that hasn't been used yet. It's the word sustainable. And a lot of people here are interested in sustainable finance. Mauritius has a notion of ESG already integrated, very much part of its law. The Stock Exchange of Mauritius has a sustainability index. And Mauritius is more than a gateway to Africa, right? We want to be a partner. So as a partner to Africa, we're also doing our part encouraging blue economy, green economy, putting the right framework to enable investors who want to contribute to African growth in sustainable manner to be able to do so. So I think that's a big part and a big factor that would still contribute to Mauritius being relevant and where we can move from simply being a gateway to a partner. And I see, for example, I work with a lot of my colleagues in all over Africa on a daily basis. We have 21 offices in Africa. I have a lot of clients moving to Botswana, from the US to Botswana. I see it's a very popular country, I must say, from Mauritius, from the US. But it's a pleasure for us to continuously be still assisting the client while we are working with our officers, our lawyers in country, servicing them. And it's clear to us that a lot of these clients we might have a Dubai company, we have a Mauritian company, we're moving to Botswana. So the world is such a small place. Mauritius, for me, will remain relevant. It will remain a partner and more than a gateway. And I see us driving a lot of growth through a lot of initiatives. Mauritius has constantly reinvented itself. As professionals, we are constantly learning. I mean, I've been practicing for 25 years, and I must say, new laws are coming up every year. You know, you die a student, and as fast as Mauritius is moving in terms of its growth, in terms of developing its frameworks, its laws, we have to move. I'm sure my colleagues have to move in the same fast manner, constantly growing. So I would say that sustainability is one of those. Substance, Mauritius is not one of those countries where you come and you've got post-office boxes or anything. We have substance. The laws have been amended to incorporate more substance. As the world is moving to, taxation, everyone's converging towards the same level of taxation, Mauritius still remains relevant. And because of our laws, of specificities of our laws, I won't bore everyone here with that today, but we still remain relevant. And because we are, our standards are going up, we are revamping our laws, whether it be in terms of taxation, in terms of compliance, we will remain relevant. And we will remain relevant as this partner for Africa.
Thank you very much indeed. So to the final question, which was looking to the future, to the horizon, what do you see as the biggest challenge that is going to face Mauritius as an IFC, and what is or what should be Mauritius doing in order to counter that problem? Now, bearing in mind how closely aligned you all are, you might want to go first rather than last, because you may have the same thing. So I'll throw it open to who would like to go first.
Okay, good. So, look, whenever you face such a challenge, you need to have a compass. And I think we are very lucky. We are very lucky to have a financial services strategy led by the minister who is with us. And it tells us, it's a very nice piece which tells us these are the risks and this is what we should do. I'll speak from my perspective, staying in my lane. The first thing we cannot afford, I think Patricia said it, no issue on AML-CFT. This one, we will deliver the evaluation, which is to close in 2027. So no doubt on this. All of us coming together, the regulator, the authorities, but also the industry. I think, Patricia, you were spot on. It does not help anyone ever to be on a grey list. We got there, and I think Vice President of Botswana, there are two countries cited as example, Botswana and Mauritius, for how fast we exited the list. But no question, we are not going there. So that's one. But very lucky to have a compass, and that's the financial services strategy. The second one, there's also the risk of a business. There's 54 countries, including Mauritius, in Africa. There are things we don't control. Things happen. And the way we mitigate that, we have a whole palette of instruments. I think we have 46 Maheem, double taxation agreement 46. We have a whole set of partnerships. To mitigate the risk, we work as partners. We don't compete. There are places we compete, but we are one of the African countries. Then there's the big one, which is the huge changes on technology. The way, that speed at which the train has left the station, as a regulator for me, is something we need to, when we are taking action, we had conversation with the industry on making the rules fit for purpose while we comply. So that's the last point, and that's a big agenda for me in that job. So and of course, delivery for the clients, delivery for the country also. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go next.
He's already taken three.
Exactly. So I think one of the challenges I see is the emergence of other financial centers. I'm not sure if we call that a challenge, but as an IFC, we have a first mover advantage on Africa at the moment. And I think going back to what Priscilla said about partnership rather than being a gateway or a pass-through into Africa, I think the next 3-4 years, a strategy towards making sure that we actually not only help from an IFC standpoint, staying there in Mauritius and then not really being helping on the continent. We need to be able to show that we can accompany our client strategies through in and out. So from the investment part up to the investee part. So I think this is where what's going to make us different from the emerging ones. I'm talking about Rwanda, talking about Dubai, which is trying very hard in Africa as well. And then secondly, obviously, we tend to be victims of our past success. Today, we have to fight to retain our talents in Mauritius to be able to deliver on whatever is coming up for us. So I think we are all moving the right direction in that sense. So yeah, these are the two major challenges that I can see. Yeah.
I can help you with the second challenge on talent, but anyway. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Naveen.
I think they said it all. I'll try to summarize in two points. I think we have various challenges. I think it's rightly spot on in terms of talents, but I think from a commercial perspective, I would say innovation, to continue to be innovative. I think it's very critical. I think we operate within an ecosystem within the IFC where we need to make sure all players are not competitors, but co-competitors in a way to make sure value is created for the investor. That's very important, and this can only happen with innovation and all partners to be aligned as co-competitors, not competitors. So that's the way forward in terms of to make sure we remain meaningful in the IFC, cross-jurisdictional. So I think that's the first one. And I think being innovative means to ensure we are still compliant, and in terms of governance, we are ahead. So to operate in a system where you're innovative, but make sure we are still very compliant and self-governance. For me, these are two critical items that we need to have on the table to make sure we are going in the right direction, as mentioned by Desiree, with the right compass. And third one is to make sure we retain talents. I think that's not only in Mauritius, but across. And I think we are doing a great job in terms of retaining. So if we have the right ingredients, definitely we'll stay meaningful in the IFC.
Thank you. Priscilla, anything left?
Nothing left. I would just steal his word, innovation. Mm-hmm. It might sound strange coming from me, but not to over-regulate, not to over-legislate, to encourage youngsters to come back, to be agile. And for banks and the whole regulatory frameworks to be scared of anything fintech. Because right now we say that we want to be that kind of jurisdiction, but we've got to walk the talk. It's a scary walk, and we're not sure where is the right path, where do you stop, but we need to be agile.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your attention. We do have some time now for you to pose questions to the panel, challenge them, engage with them. and ask for any clarification that you may have. There should be a microphone that's roving round somewhere. Oh, there you go. So if you have any questions, please do raise your hands and don't be shy. Obviously done such a good job. Any questions from anybody?
We answered all questions.
Yeah.
There's one question there.
Ah, thank you very much, Steve.
Hi, Claude Harvey from Apex Mauritius. You mentioned the legislation around the tokenized assets and digital assets and digital distribution. I think one of the challenges I keep hearing from clients who are keen to invest in the region, keen to explore that space, is transactional banking for these clients. So that seems to be a big issue. Do you see that being solved in the near future?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I cannot answer directly, but not later than this morning, I had a conversation of that with my twin regulator, the governor of the Bank of Mauritius. So this is something which is on our books and we are going to address. We agreed to meet when we are both back in Mauritius, and we'll come back to you on that. But I raise it, and we know it's a hurdle, but we are looking into it.
Thank you very much. Next question, please. All done? Thank you very much indeed to the panel. I hope you've all enjoyed today's summit. And I'm sure if there are any questions that you have, don't hesitate to reach out to these individuals when they're here. Again, just a final thanks to the sponsors of today's events. I do appreciate that. And also, thank you very much indeed, all of you, for your attendance. So thank you very much indeed, panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.